got a picture with Obama, but you know, we just sat down with him. You know, that's my man.
You got one of those in your
That's my
house,
man
too?
Barry.
There is like a bigger picture to the organization, to the connections, to the community. You do more after you graduate than you do when you're an undergrad. In undergrad, you basically just party.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So where everything happens, where you like build businesses and all that stuff happens after.
It's just built-in networking.
Whoa, there he is.
Uh-oh.
Hey, you walk in here quiet,
I
man.
know, right?
What up, dog?
What up, baby? What's up, baby? You got it?
So we run this big facility.
Man, coach walking here quiet. It's about 18 doors in here, though.
Boy, this is nice,
Got it
man.
locked in, right?
Where Lil Penny at? You ain't bringing with you?
Nah, he chilling right now.
Tyra Banks, fool.
Hold up, limitless. Take a stomach, got a pin in it. I fought the head to witness it. Got my people feeling militant. Way I'm feeling got me up. On the mission got me up. Knowing me, I got the key. On the vision, I can trust. Limitless. Take a stomach, got a pin in it. I fought the head to witness it. Got my people feeling militant.
Anthony Hardaway, man, welcome to the
Appreciate
Pivot.
you brothers, man.
Channing Crowder, Fred Taylor, Ryan Clark, Pivot fam, thank you for pivoting with us. Chan sat down, and Fred too, and they immediately started making fun of your Kappa Alpha Psi pick here.
Man,
You
it's
know.
just so much hate, man.
Man,
I don't
look.
I don't understand.
Got a little wiggle here.
Shout out to all the noobs.
Yeah, man. But it would have been fitting then if Pretty would have stuck instead of Penny.
That would have been fitting, though. My grandmother did give me that nickname when I was young, but I had to go with Penny.
Like I said, and Pretty Hardaway with the dunk.
That wouldn't have matched up.
That
would not
would have
have matched
matched
up.
up. You are so Memphis in the sense of what you represent, the way you've represented it, and how they feel a connection
Yeah.
to you. Talk about what it is like, man, to have played here, been a part of putting the school's basketball program on the map, and then work your way back up to being the head coach of your alma mater.
Yeah, well, it starts in the streets, right, of Memphis. It's just every neighborhood is about basketball. It's just basketball, basketball, basketball. And there's this certain mentality you have to have growing up or else you're gonna get swallowed up. If you're not tough, if you're not competing, if you're not fighting, and that just went with me all the way through my basketball career, and the city kind of embraced me at a young age. When they recognized me playing with Elliot Perry, who played in the NBA for a while, and then to make it to the NBA, play in the NBA, and then be able to come back and coach, I understood what I had to do. I understood the mission, I understood what the city needed, and coming back, I never thought it would happen because I came back to coach in my neighborhood, middle school kids, to try to help my neighborhood out. But when it got to the point that where it became a reality that it could happen, I embraced it because I knew that we needed this, meaning we, the city, we needed our own, and we needed somebody that cared about the city, that embraced and embodied what the city meant. It's been nothing but great, man, these seven years that I've been here.
I don't want to say, like, did it hold you back any? Because we always get it. Don't forget where you from.
Yeah.
Don't forget where you from. And you stay here for college. Mm-hmm. Every time you get a chance, you're doing Memphis. Could you have grown more if you didn't have the mentality of, I have to give back to my city? Because a lot of dudes, bro, they're like, hey, when I took my kids back to Atlanta, Decatur, they were like, Daddy, I want to see where you grow up. For what? we done got out of this shit. You don't want to go back there.
I think, man, it was being raised by my grandmother that kind of instilled that always come back. Whenever you get a chance to do for your neighborhood or for your city, do it. And I always kept that in my heart. I do understand the guys that don't want to go back, but for me, I felt like it was my duty to come back and give back and be a part of this. And it just so happened to be, a part of the coaching, which I didn't think would happen, but now being a coach here is pretty cool.
But even with that, what challenges did you face growing up?
Man, gang culture, jealousy. I was an only child, so, you got to fight all the people in the neighborhood with the 5, 6, 7 brothers and sisters. Just not having a dad there to try to bounce things off of, not even having my mom there to bounce things off of. It was just me and my grandmother. And the blessing behind being raised by my grandmother was that she was so strict. It was like ruled with an iron fist. Like I couldn't do certain things. I had to be in the house before dark. I couldn't go anywhere and spend the night with anybody. All of those things really locked me in on really what I wanted. And the challenges were that, but it also became a blessing out of it as well.
Right. When did the love for basketball, when did that kind of cross your path?
I can think back as far back as 5 years old because my neighborhood was a basketball neighborhood. So 5 years old, watching people dribble the basketball, watching people play in the neighborhood, I just grew the love for the game just from watching those guys. And as I grew older, we had a neighborhood full of guys that could really hoop. The local neighborhood was winning state championships, so those guys went to college. So I'm not knowing this growing up. I'm just seeing guys that can really play. And when they built this community center in our neighborhood, I was able to go up there and watch the guys play ball. Man, it was really competitive and got a chance to fall in love with the game even more. But I can remember back as early as 5 years old.
You grow in the game and, part of basketball, every football player, at least at one point in their life, thought they was a hooper.
No doubt.
I was one of those people. Part of it is you got to get over 6 foot, and I didn't. You know what I mean? But, you talked about growing up in the game and where you grew up and some of the things that you face. Were you the type of kid that grew up in a neighborhood where everybody pointed to, hey, Penny gonna be the one. Let's make sure we take care of him. Did you get sort of that treatment?
Yeah, I got that. Yeah. I did get that. I got that probably when I was like 11, 12 years old because they used to hold these little one-on-one tournaments in the neighborhood, and they would bring all the guys from my neighborhood, and we play, and I would win all of them. And they knew that talent. They were like, man, this is the next one. We have to protect him. So it went from fighting everybody in the neighborhood to really being the guy, that everyone looked up to. If you wanted somebody to play against someone across town, I was gonna be the guy to go represent our neighborhood. So that love also kind of carried me because I felt like at that point, I had to put my neighborhood on my back, and then now it's ultimately the city.
So how much did that weigh into deciding where to go to college? I mean, you could have went anywhere in the country to hoop, and you know how it is, man. At least, like when I grew up, and in New Orleans, it wasn't prestige to go to LSU like it is now. It was if you could go to Miami, or if you could go to Notre Dame, or if you can go to USC, that was signifying, okay, I made it. Right, I got not only out of this neighborhood, I got out of this state. How much did the way they treated you while you were coming up play into you wanting to represent here at Memphis?
That was everything, because of how my neighborhood treated me all the way until the fans coming to see us in 9th grade, sold out crowds everywhere I went on the road and at home, from all the way from 9th through 12th. The way that they could show me that love, it was hard for me to just go anywhere else. I had Georgetown, obviously, that were my finalists, Georgetown, Temple, Arkansas, Georgia Tech, UNLV. But really, only one team had a slight chance. That was Arkansas because of Todd Day, Oliver Miller, rest in peace, Lee Mayberry, and that group at Arkansas. They had like 5 Memphis guys on that team. And we all played AAU together. Corey Beck, Dwight Stewart, all those guys. So that was close, but the love from home and that home gave me, I felt like I needed to be here.
Penny, but you talking about 9th grade. So what, you 13, 14 years old to have that pressure? Was it pressure? Did you feel that pressure? Did you feel the city on you? You just say, funny you said the city was on my back. My town was on my back. Everybody knew if I had to go represent my city. You're 14 years old and got grown-ass men depending on you to go over there and represent it. We watched you grow up with blue chips and and you all, like, we watched you grow up, and you seemed like it was just, water off a duck's back. Was there that pressure ever get to you?
It was never pressure. I wore it with pride, man. I did. I wanted to represent my neighborhood and my city in the highest fashion, no matter if it was AAU, no matter what it was. I just had so much Memphis pride. And that wasn't the pressure. It was like, I know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go represent. Because I was always trying to rep putting us on the map versus the New Yorks, the LAs, all these different, states, all these cities that had all the hoopers. Wherever we went, man, it was all about Memphis. So I wore that with pride.
We kind of skimmed over talking about your grandmother, but I know RC asked you about staying here in Memphis, and you were with her, like the only one. How much of being with her and what she meant to you in your life influenced your decision to stay here, and kind of speak about her and her influence in your life?
Yeah, her love for me, if I would have gone to Seattle, Washington to go to UW, she would have went. She would have moved there. But there was also a sense of pride about her that she wanted me to stay. She felt the love, and she was all about loyalty. She felt like the city had been loyal to me, and treated her with a lot of respect, that it was going to be Memphis. That's definitely what it was going to be. Even though I tried to think about Arkansas, she would have followed me anywhere, but I knew in her heart she wanted me to stay home to make it easier on her instead of her having to travel. But such a great woman, man, to take me in at 5 years old. My mom went to pursue a singing career and traveled all around the country, would leave for a year and a half, 2, come back, visit one time, be gone for another couple of years. She had to hold it down, and she held 2 jobs. She worked crazy hard, and I just watched her just get it done and take me in as she's retiring. She was retiring, and then she took in a 5-year-old. You work your whole life to retire, and then you got taken a 5-year-old. So, man, I never really forgot that. Even though it was tough growing up in a household that was so strict, as I got older, I appreciated that because that really molded me. But for her, watching her do what she did every single day, and how she handled her business and how she went about her business, it just kind of drove me even more.
And you can see you got your grandma everywhere.
No doubt.
That's your baby.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But what about the other side with your mom and your dad? Like, how do you feel about them? How did you feel about it? You 5 years old, you don't know.
Yeah, no doubt.
I'm going to stay with grandma.
Yeah.
But as you start growing up, like, damn, you know, mom and dad ain't at the games.
Yeah.
Did that ever get to you?
Because my grandmother showed so much love, I never once said, man, I wish my dad was here, or I wish my mom was here. And if I didn't see my dad for 3, 4, 5 years and I saw him, it was like I saw him every day. That's just what my grandmother instilled in me. I never held grudges on him or against him. He came to my practices this year. He came to town. My brother's daughter goes here, you know, and so he came to town to visit her, and we kind of got together here for a couple hours or whatever, but she never made me feel any type of way about my dad. My mom and I just kind of had to work on a relationship because she was never there. I don't remember the early years, but I started having to build a relationship with her from 15 on up, and she got a job when she got back to town where she never came to my high school games. Still, she just worked. It was crazy how all that went down because I knew God had his hands on me a long time ago to be able to go through this entire journey and not have a mom or dad there and building a relationship still to this day with my mom. It's just, my grandmother just instilled that love that I never held any grudges against my mom or my dad.
Well, so what's cool about that is your ability to process that and still think to myself, okay, I'm not gonna hold that grudge. And also too, for your grandmother to be so strong where she didn't put that in you.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of times the primary caretaker who is taking on this 5-year-old when they could be retiring, that bitterness makes the child bitter against their parents. But you fast forward that Jaden and Ashton were here on the same team.
No doubt.
You know, and I can't imagine, you know, I trained my son and I know the feelings I have all the time of watching him get to play. But to have, you know, your sons play here at Memphis and you guys get to spend a year together when that's never really happened. What was that experience like for y'all?
Man, it was the best feeling of my life because to have both of them here at the same time, it was crazy because I never thought that could happen. You know, I never thought I'd be a college coach. Both of my sons would be good enough to be in college and playing for me. I wasn't gonna force them in anything when they were younger. It just happened, so God blessed this situation, right? And to be coaching those guys, to be around them every day, to be in practice, to have to switch the hats from dad to coach, not show favoritism, but to also push, you know, like, hey, I need you to do things differently. And at the end of the day, you're still gonna treat your sons harsher or harder than you're gonna do the rest of the group because they're yours. But the experience of that year was amazing.
Did you feel like people were looking at you to see how you dealt with your sons? Like,
Probably.
were you kind of a little bit harder on them then because of that?
I think I was harder on Jaden than I was on Ashton because Ashton, I had to be more of a supporter just, you know, because he didn't grow up in a household with me. Jaden kind of did, right? He did. And so I was harder on Jaden, but Ashton and I built a great relationship. And I mean, obviously, that's my son. I've been in his life his whole life. But when you grow up in 2 different households and then you start coaching, that was my first time coaching him. I had coached Jaden previously. It was actually pretty cool, but I did coach Ashton hard, but not as hard as I coached Jaden. It's crazy how that works.
Bro, is it nature or nurture? Like your sons, damn, Penny Hardaway is my daddy. Like, I'm gonna be good at basketball. But it's not really. Like, do you push him? I have a 13-year-old now, and I'll be like, bro, you gotta get up and, man, go run this 1.5 miles. Man, like, you know what I'm saying? So, but you know what it takes. If you didn't know what it takes to get to be a Hall of Famer,
Right.
would your sons have been as good as they are at basketball?
I can say that they both have work ethic where I don't have to kick them in the butt and make them work out. But being a great athlete and one of the best guards to play in the NBA, it drove them to want to outdo me or be better than me, which I appreciated. I didn't have to kick them in the butt to make them work out. They are automatically trying to get up because they have this target on their backs. All of our sons do because we played on the highest level, and that kid is gonna go, I'm gonna try you today because of your last name and what your dad did. So they felt that energy and wanted to get to that level to defend themselves because they knew they're gonna have to, whether we like it or not, they're gonna have to defend themselves every day. Whether your son realizes it or not, you're gonna have to defend yourself. So I was proud that they were already driven to do it because they saw my work ethic, just like how I saw my grandmother's. Yeah. They saw me working, and that kind of rubbed off on them.
You ever holler at Dion?
I never hollered at Prime. That's my guy.
Yeah.
I never talked to him about how he handled his sons.
Yeah.
You know, Prime is just Prime. But I see how he's doing it publicly. We're actually seeing it publicly, and he's doing what he's supposed to do. He's loving them, but he's pushing them.
Right, you spoke about opportunity over obligation, and to be able to transition from this extreme popular player, great player, amazing player, to coaching, and then back at home. Speak to that transition, and how was it all, and when did you officially embrace it?
I never thought I was going to be in coaching. I thought I was going to be in TV. You know, I really wanted to do ESPN or TNT or do something like that. And then when I got back home, a buddy of mine was diagnosed with colon cancer. I went through that whole process with him, and then he ended up passing. I took over his team. And then I fell in love with that group, moved up to high school with him, and then now I'm ultimately here. I started embracing it more after he passed because I felt like I had to carry his legacy for him, because he will never be known as one of the world's most famous guys, but in our neighborhood, he was a hero because he took young men who really didn't feel like they could make it and made them dream and understand that they could, even before I came into the picture. And all I did was added the funds and added the conversation of you can do it too. I walked these same hallways, I walked the same dirt. And I took that and then I ran with it, and then I started embracing it more after he passed, because I felt like everything that he did in this beat up car, taking 5, 6, 7 kids all around the city to play, for us taking them, me building the AAU program and taking them around the country, and then ultimately 90% of those guys went to college. That legacy itself is what I try to carry. So I started embracing it more. And I'm still cool with all those guys that played AAU for us and middle school for us, and making sure that they're still good today because of him. Because I know that if he was alive, he would still be going with that same mentality of, hey, we got to make sure that these guys are good. So I started embracing it more after he passed. It drove me more because I found the motivation more into driving, because he had nothing and was making it work. And I had everything, and I had to make it work. And God, you know what I mean? That's just how God worked for me.
What was sort of the last conversations you and Desmond had? Like, what were some of the last things you talked about?
Bro, this dude was so strong. He was small in stature, but he was so strong because he was so worried about the kids than he ever was about himself. He skipped chemo just to make it to a game. I don't want to be sick today. I got to be up for them. And then ultimately, that became a part of his passing faster, because he really tried to ignore the things that he needed to do to just make sure those kids were good. And that was, man, I'm like, he's dying. He knows he's dying, but all he cared about was, let's get these kids out of this neighborhood, let's get them to school, let's make sure that they're successful, don't worry about me. And man, that was tough to deal with every day. Him having to leave the bench to go to the bathroom and throw up because he missed chemo, or he was just really sick, and he never wanted the guys to know how sick he was. All he worried about was making them happy.
Are you coaching for Desmond? Because you got plenty of money. You don't got it. Like, you sitting here, we walk in and you over there having a recruiting meeting with one of your other coaches. Like, bro, you could go buy an island and chill.
No doubt.
Are you coaching for Desmond?
I'm coaching for Desmond for sure, because that's my hood, that's my guy, I grew up with him. I want our neighborhood to be known, and I want those young men and women still over there to know that it can be done, but also the city. But Dez is definitely in my heart. Everything I do, I drive because he drove the city, he drove the neighborhood, he drove the kids. And I have that same feeling, man. He definitely, every day, just talking to him, after I talk to God, I do just say, hey, man, we're still doing it. And that makes me feel good, because it was a reason why we connected later in life. You know, we grew up together and then we separated because I went to the league, even though I came home in the summer. For us to connect again before he passed, to me, that's God's divine order right there.
I mean, your career is part of that, right? The fact that you are here today is because you guys did connect, and it was middle school championships, and it was high school championships, AAU building the program, and then on to Memphis. We actually sat with Shaq in another relationship you had, and he said he had 2 regrets, right? One was his divorce, and the other was not continuing a relationship with you. When you think back on your time together with Shaq, from blue chips to Orlando and to finals appearances, what are some of your lasting memories about that relationship and that time?
Man, it was the most fun I had in the NBA playing with Shaq, because when you went around the country, it was like you were rock stars, right? Because of him. People knew who I was, but not to the extent of what I became after I played with him. And he made my life so easy because he drew double teams, triple teams, and obviously that just helped me tremendously. And it's just the off-the-court experience of just being around. Dude was like a major worldwide figure and bigger than life type of guy, and I got an opportunity to play with him and be on the same court with him, and I'll never forget those years. Those years were really, no pun intended, magical, because seriously, it was magical because that dude just made my life easy.
When he leaves, and now it's Penny's show, right? At the time, you're one of the best players in the world. Channing asked you about pressure. You accepted the pressure of carrying Memphis on your back. You sit out your freshman year, you ball here, you become the 3rd overall pick. All of these things happen. You bring them to the finals, and now it's your show.
Yep.
How much pressure was it on you when it became just Penny?
Yeah, it wasn't. Again, I never felt the pressure because I felt like I could handle my business, right? I felt like I could do whatever I needed to do. I was more devastated because I knew what I lost. It wasn't never about me. It was always about team. It was all about winning championships. And when I lost Shaq, I was like, you're not going to win a championship now. Unless you just go out and grab some really good free agents to come here, it's going to make it way harder. I knew I lost a giant in the game, and you can't lose that guy and think that you're going to win championships, right? So I knew I was going to play well, but I knew I wasn't going to have Shaq there to be able to win championships. And I was more devastated than anything. I never felt the pressure to go out and perform at a high level because I knew I could score 20 plus a game with my abilities. It's just knowing that you can win a championship. You know when you play on teams, you know when you're going to win, and in your heart, you're going to always compete, but just like, we just don't have enough. We can go compete, and I'm going to compete to the death, but losing Shaq was just too devastating.
I think it's refreshing to hear Big Fella talk about, when people want to compare you and Kobe because he played with both of you guys, to be able to go and say, you came in him, with your God-given ability. You were tall. Everybody compared you to Magic. You could shoot better than Magic, pass just as good, certainly more athletic, but then the injuries happen.
Yeah.
I like to look at myself as the Penny Hardaway of the NFL. I know.
I knew he was gonna laugh. Hey, I knew you was gonna laugh.
Always.
Boy,
crazy.
you stupid. No,
But see,
what is
you gotta let me
wrong
finish, right?
with you, dog?
I didn't expect that, bro. Like, Fred, that you surprised me with this one. You were Penny of the NFL.
In this sense. Don't be disrespectful, because I wasn't no slouch. So
you so funny, dog.
we can't take him nowhere,
I
bro.
knew you.
Nowhere.
I'm my bad, Fred. I'm so sorry, Fred.
You are crazy. So, in terms of injuries,
Yes.
realizing that there was a lot more to be able to attain, and looking at those injuries and saying, well, I never had an opportunity to actually see or maximize that career potential. How often do you reflect on, what you would have been without those injuries?
Oh, my God. I mean, crazy numbers, for sure. I don't know how many championships I would have won. I don't know if I would have stayed in Orlando if I would have been perfectly healthy, obviously. But it would have been some conversations differently about me definitely if I stay healthy. My skill set, having a height advantage on every position that I played against, all the guards, the skill, everything that went along with my game, it definitely would have been a different story. But I tie those two together with how I retired and the injuries, because I just kept trying to figure out, because I never got injured at all. Like up until I got hit in the NBA by Joe Dumars. It started with Joe Dumars. He hit like knee to knee. And then from that point, I started trying to come back early. But I tied together retiring early and coming back and doing what I did with Desmond to my injuries, because it just seemed like God said, your purpose isn't basketball anymore. Your purpose is is going back to Memphis and dealing with those kids, because I couldn't see it any other way. Because the way this all married and came about, if I would have never gotten injured, I probably would have never came back home and did what I did for those young men in the neighborhood. Right. Obviously, I get money. I come back in the summer, check on everybody, but I gave my time and money, and being around and being able to be an inspiration to them. So, yeah, I'm in any conversation if I stay healthy with the greats. That's just the honest truth, because my skill set and how I dominated the game when I wasn't injured. It was something that God gave me. I was able to be successful at doing it, and then when I started getting injured, you took my athleticism, my speed, and all that away, then I'm not the same player. Obviously, no one is.
Right.
And it was a different time. Nowadays, you talk about like the load management and all the stuff they talk about. If you could go back, would you have dealt with your injuries different? Because I heard you talk about getting cortisone shots before and
Oh,
all
my
that
God,
stuff to
yeah.
go play. Why ain't you take a year off and get right so you could go on to be the penny you know you could be?
Yeah, back then it was unheard of, to be very honest with you. It was just, you had to play through pain. And I can remember recovering and on a good pace to recover, and I just decided at about 85% I'm better than anybody at 100%. And I came back, I kept coming back, bro, and I just kept having that meniscus tear. And maybe because I never really listened to my body, I was more listening to my heart of loving the game. I need to help my team needs me. And it was dumb, it was stupid, because I remember Tim Duncan sitting out the entire playoffs and sitting out as long as he needed to, Grant Hill sitting out as long as he needed to, and really coming back and playing. Tim obviously went on and did amazing things, and Grant still played at a high enough level to compete after he sat out those couple years. If it were now, I would have been smarter and said, I got to sit out until I'm fully well. Kind of like Alonzo Ball, like, hey, I got to sit out until I'm fully well. Back then, it was unheard of, though.
How do you feel about that change in mentality, right? Because it's always the era argument, right? Can this guy play in that era? Can this, would this guy work? What would Penny Hardaway be in 2025?
Right.
And there were a few players during your time that was already advancing the game forward. You were one of those dudes.
Yeah.
You ever think, though, about the difference in mentality? The fact that you said that in your time, it was unheard of to sit out and do that. But then you look at a guy like Lonzo Ball, and he caught flack for it every now and then, but he was like, nah, I'm not coming back until I'm ready to play. And now he may be able to further his career.
Yep.
Do you feel like the game has gotten softer, or is it about the game getting smarter?
I was just going to the better side of it and say it's getting smarter, because I think Lonzo tried to come back injured a couple times and was like, I can't. And I'm not going to be ridiculed and criticized coming out here at 85% instead of coming back at 100. You'll never be a full 100 after you go through that, but you can get as close to it as you can. But I don't think smart is, I don't want to play a back-to-back, because I play for my fans. Like, I wasn't going to miss a game if I was perfectly healthy because I was tired. My grandmother was tired going to 2 jobs. Us hooping is not being tired. And I'm not knocking anybody for that, but I could never do that. I have to play for the fans. And for somebody resting, just to rest that isn't injured, I would take that out. But the guys that are hurt, that are just trying to play through, that might need an extra day and being smarter, or have had a major injury and then trying to sit out, I just say that's smarter, because you're going to be judged if you get back on that court. And I was judged harshly trying to play through that. And that really kind of tarnished my name a little bit, because I tried to play through those injuries.
How did you feel about that, though? Like, there's always the guy like, man, I don't listen, I don't hear anything out there. And then they could repeat everything they heard,
right,
outside. But when you have already proven, and also, too, when your entire life you've been here, right? And even at the highest level, you were there. And you're trying to push your body to do something that it just can't do.
Yep.
And people aren't saying, hey, well, he's hurt, let's give him a break. Nah,
Yep.
They're crushing you
Yes.
for not being what you once were.
Yep.
How difficult was that for you to deal with?
That was the most difficult part, because I chose team over me. I came back for the team. I didn't come back for me. I just felt like I could get it done. And to hear that, the naysayers or whatever, just saying I'm not, obviously I'm not. I'm out here playing injured. But once you get back on the court, they're going to label you as healthy, and you got to go play. So at the end of the day, don't get on the court where you can't compete at the level that you feel like you can.
I don't know if there's a one play or whatever, but what did you start to lose when? Because we all did it. We talked about it on the show where
I knew it.
It was a certain year, and you be like, oh, and I go to cover tight end, and that motherfucker run down that seam, and I'd be like, damn, this motherfucker fast. I can't keep up with him no more.
Right.
What was in like basketball, Hall of Fame, All-Star, and then like what were those steps coming down?
Oh man, it was terrible. It was what you said. Like, I remember getting traded to Phoenix. I had to have a knee surgery after my first year because I got hurt by Samaki Walker in the second round of the Spurs. I got knocked out of the air and tore my meniscus again. I was like, bro, this is crazy. But I kept getting the cortisone shots, and I finished the series against the Lakers. But in practice, Leandro Barbosa, man, he came down the court and just gave me a hizzy and blew around me so fast. At that point, I was like, yo, this is crazy. I couldn't plant, pivot, and get back in time to catch him, and I knew I could do it easily before. At that point, I was like, yo, I'm gonna have to start getting some better angles, or I'm gonna have to get up out of this joint. Leandro was the one that gave me the reality check, and he was a blur.
You're so quick, though. I find it amazing that you could probably have conversation with athletes about what happened yesterday, and we'll be like, man, we saw old boy, what's old boy name?
Yeah.
But you start talking about sports, you can be like, man, Joe Dumars.
Go right back to that, Samaki, right back to those people. Instantly. That's just crazy how our brain works.
Yeah, you go.
But if you're talking about brain, they talking about your physical toughness. But how did it affect you mentally?
It kind of destroyed me mentally because I knew I wasn't myself. Just coming home after a game or after a practice and it taking me like 10 minutes to get out of the car because I couldn't straighten my leg. And I knew I had to go back the next day and practice again and try to play it off or act like nothing was wrong. Man, it was tough mentally. I just had to dig into my faith. You know, I just remember, man, just digging in more to my faith more than anything. And obviously, I've always been a guy of faith, but you got to draw from something that you know can help you get through it and then my mentors, they helped me get through it, but nothing can help you, man, at that time except for God. When you're going through that mental state of, man, I used to be this, and then now I'm this.
Right.
And it's because of injuries. It wasn't like I was healthy and I just lost my game. It started to become a reality that, man, this is coming to an end. And when that starts to play on your mind, it gets bad.
The key on your neck,
Yeah.
what's engraved in it,
Believe.
and what does it mean?
It's a believe key. It's a company called the Giving Key, and it has believe. I got this from me and my staff because if you don't have belief, you don't have anything. So it came from us coming together and saying that we're going to believe that this group can be the group to take us to the next level. And I've always had that belief in myself because obviously no mom, no dad, having my grandmother. And when I saw this key on social media, I ordered a bunch of them and gave them to our athletic director and everybody because we have to believe first before we can achieve. So that's where it came from, and it has engraved on the belief.
Penny, man, this was a hard year, right? Your team gets on a hot streak,
Yep.
puts themselves in a position to have a great seed. This is the 5-12 game, but your points down.
Yep.
The backup
Oh, my gosh.
is down. But like you said, ain't nobody worried about that.
No.
Yeah, Penny Hardaway, the prodigal son, got to come back here and coach, and we got to win some games. But there's been one natty win since 2014.
Yeah.
Bro, when you're walking off that court this year after putting your team in a position where you could really make a run and falling short for whatever reason, how difficult are those conversations in the locker room after losses like that?
Oh, they're very difficult because I came into this business to win. You know, we're all competitors, right? And I do understand reality of where we are. To go into 2 games before the end of the regular season, my backup point guard, severe ankle sprain, out. And then to go into the semifinals of the conference tournament, Tyrese Hunter, my starting point guard, breaks his foot on a fluke play, just backpedaling, and his teammate looking at someone shooting a free throw, and he steps on his foot and breaks his foot. You go into that game as a 5 seed. You got that 5 seed because of Tyrese Hunter, Dante Harris, and the entire group, because that's what we've had all year. We haven't had injuries. We were blessed without having injuries. Then you get into that game. Colorado State was a really good team, and then you got to go to war. I mean, I prepared all my guys, but if you don't have your starting point guard and your backup point guard, we fought as hard as we could. But after that game, it's like, what's the message in this? We don't have Tyrese and Dante for the first time all year in the biggest game that we've ever had, and we lost. You only remembered, and your legacy's put in place because of the postseason. Not so much regular season games, right? It's postseason. And I've only won 1 postseason game against Boise State 3 years ago, and I have lost in the first round against FAU a couple years ago when they went to the Final Four on the last second shot. And then we had 2 guys injured, but no one cares about that. So my message is, we just got to get it done. You got to have not only a great seed, you got to have a healthy seed. You got to have your team be healthy. And man, it was just tough, just understanding that no matter how you look at it, it's still going to be viewed as you only have 1 postseason win and you got to get to work. You know, I've seen you guys discussing what's happening in the NFL with the coaches in the NFL that have been long tenured guys, Coach Tomlin and all these guys. Their playoff records lately have been this, it's difficult, man, when you start understanding. You can win 20-plus games a year, but if you're not getting out of that first weekend, you're going to be viewed differently. And so I know that. Yeah. And I hold myself to that standard as well. But coming out of our league, not getting the respect around the country, there are no more victories with me. So I'm all about, we got to get to the second weekend, bro. We just got to do it. And this summer is a big summer for me.
You talk about your current players. We had one of your former players on this show not too long ago, Mikey.
Okay.
And he spoke about really just wanting to be here so he can learn from you.
Yeah.
And learn to be responsible that way as well. You went to bat for Mikey. What are your thoughts on the kid? He's in the portal now.
Yeah.
Well,
I saw myself in Mikey, bro. From the point of view is, this kid was like was a household name, one of the biggest stars when he was like 14 years old, and can still play, but then gets into this situation, don't know the details of it, and gets put in a situation where he gets accused of something. Mm-hmm. I'm like, okay, has he been convicted of it? He hadn't been convicted of it. This is just pending. I love this kid. I like this kid. He chose me. I chose him. I want to coach this kid. I took a chance on him because I saw myself in him. And I knew that all he needed was a break and he needed a chance. It didn't work here at Memphis at the time. He's back in the portal now. That can come out a totally different way now for him because you take off 2 years. Mm-hmm. You got this unbelievable thing going on where you're having to fight for your freedom. You don't know which way it's going to go, but you're one of the best basketball players in the nation. Now nobody's talking about you. Nobody's feeling you. Nobody's trying to get at you. Nobody's trying to bring Mikey in versus 6 years ago, it was, man, hurry up and get out of high school so we can get you.
Yeah.
So I get that part, man. So that's why I fought for him, man, because I saw myself in him and I believed in his story.
Right. Yeah. You know, I'm looking at this picture up here, man, and you know, you got the normal penny look on your face, like unbothered.
Right.
I ain't tripping. Mike staring a hole through your ear
yeah.
right here. And they say he about to own you, and on the bottom it say, boy, please, I'm from Memphis.
No doubt.
You know, Memphis is this historically just music, right, and culture, and so much has happened here throughout history, and then the university became what basketball was about in Memphis. But, man, you get up there, bro, and you know, we all, like, everybody loved Mike, and everybody knew who he was. What is it like, man, when you step on the court with that dude and you realize, oh, wait, I'm supposed to be here?
Right. Yeah, no. First, you get your rest because you know you're going to be in for a game. Secondly, you go at him first. Don't give him the chance to go at you. And that was my mentality because, you know, I felt like this is the GOAT. I get a chance to go against him, to compete against him. I got to destroy him. My thing was to destroy him to get him to respect me. I already had the ultimate respect for him, but I was going to compete and go at him. And that's what I did, man. That was, to me, the ultimate dream for me, getting to the league and him coming back. Because when he came back, I was so happy. Everybody like, MJ is back. I'm like, great, now I get a chance to play against the greatest. I didn't get a chance to play against him because I remember going to Chicago, and I was actually in the club in Chicago at like 3 a.m., 2 a.m., or something like that. And this dude from Shaq walked up to me and go, I bet you if Mike was here, you wouldn't, because Mike wasn't with the Bulls. And we still got smacked by 25 the next day by Ron Harper, Scottie Pippen, Tony Kukoc, and then they smacked us. But if Mike was there, there's no way I'm out in the club. You just locked in and focused. So we underestimated those guys. But that's what he brought to the game. He was a guy that made you lock in. And if you didn't lock in, you're going to get destroyed.
I am huge Michael Jordan fan. I think he's the greatest basketball player of all time. One of the worst days of my young life was when Nick Anderson punched that ball from behind him in the 45.
Yeah.
But that moment, though, right, he does come back, and he did have some spots where he was old Mike during that run.
Yes.
But not in that moment.
Yeah.
When Nick punches the ball from behind Mike, man, what's the feeling like, nah, we got him this time?
Yeah, well, for me, when he punched the ball, I snatched it and then went down. We had a 2-on-1 break. I hit Horace. I see that clearly right now. And Horace dunked the ball, and we win. The agony of that was the next game he comes back, and we get into the jump circle. He has on 23. He took the 45 off, like, all right, I'm done bullshitting with y'all. I'm about to put this 2-3 back on. Yeah. So I was like, okay, he got the 2-3 on. And he beat us. They beat us that game. That next game, and I'm like, oh, hell, we got to go to Chicago. We got a dog fight on our hands. But we ended up winning the next 2 games. But at that moment, that was a special moment for us because obviously him handling the ball, Nick posted the ball out, and we get that first win on a team that's never lost a series in the playoffs since he's started winning championships. And it was a great feeling, but we knew we were going to have to deal with them boys after that. We really had to deal with them because he came back the next game, no 45 and 2-3. And I was like, oh, hell. And they won that game. I was like, damn, this is going to be a problem.
The ultimate competitor, you hear all the stories about him. When you started playing him, like you said, you started going at him, did he ever give you like the, okay, young boy, like the, hey man, you gonna be something, or Mike wasn't like that?
Well, the ultimate respect was he got off me and put Scotty on me. So that, to me, was the ultimate respect, because Mike, he defensive first team. He that guy, Scotty, either Scotty said, let me get him, or Phil was like, Scotty, you get him, or whatever, but I took him to the post. Nobody had ever posted MJ like that. Maybe Mitch Richmond, bigger guard, but I just took him to the post. And that wasn't saying that he couldn't guard me in the post, but that's where I was going with my business. Like, I was going to that post. I'm not taking you on the perimeter. We're going right here. So the ultimate respect was when Scotty started guarding me after that. I was like, okay, I got his respect now.
But Mike ain't never just, after the game, hey, young boy, you.
Oh, no, eventually he did. He was like, you that dude. Because I went to Chicago and spent the whole summer with him in 03, 04 when he came back and joined the Wizards. And he gave me all my flowers then. He was like, you're a bad boy. You that, you know, our number, love and respect. And then Tim Grover, who was his trainer, was like, Mike loves you. He was like, you that dude. So I can kind of feel the respect because I never backed down and just competed.
In today's game, who are your top 5 favorite? I'm not asking you, like, who are the best, but your top 5 favorite players you enjoy watching.
Jason Tatum, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. Obviously, I still love watching Bron at his age, still doing what he does. That's just like at 40 and still doing what he's doing. I don't really know if I have a 5 because I have so many guys, but Kyrie, still love watching Kyrie. Kyrie's just a mastermind out there, man. You can just tell he's playing chess. Giannis, because he competes every possession, and he's gotten better and grown every year in his game. Man, I know I'm forgetting somebody,
I
but
think that was 5 right there,
at the end, that's so many more, but those guys just come right to mind. It's not like I don't like Joker, because I love watching him play and what he does, because it's amazing without athleticism to really destroy the league from the mid-post area, and he does it at a high level, obviously. Even Ja, and his greatness of all his athleticism, I love watching his playmaking ability, which he doesn't get a lot of credit for. But yeah, my guys, that's my group just to watch and enjoy watching those guys.
I have a question about that. You know, you went through all these guys, and then you got to Nikola Jokic, right? Who's probably the best basketball player in the NBA right now. He just went triple-double, 61, 10, and 10. And Jay Will put out a tweet and said, if LeBron or Steph had that sort of night, we'd talk about it for 2 days.
No doubt.
Right? And we'd shut shows down on ESPN. But he said, we're not doing it for Jokic because he doesn't really fit the mold. I don't know like what mold it is. What I do feel though is like when you look at Nikola Jokic, we don't see ourselves.
Right, for sure.
Right? And he's not even from this country.
Right.
How much do you think that plays an impact on how we connect to people like a Jokic, or how young people might connect to a dude like Ja, who feels more familiar to him?
I think that's true. That's what happened. But I think that Jokic, if you look at him, he don't want any of the recognition. He don't want any of the accolades. He don't want any of that. It's like when he gets something, it's like, what am I getting this from? Just doing my job. So maybe that turns people off, because usually the guys that look like us or that hoop like us, they want that, right? They want that commercial. They want that notoriety is saying that they're the best players, and they carry that every single day. Jokic is like, he shies away from it. I don't want that. I'm just gonna do my job for the team that pays me, and I'm gonna kick your ass every night. That's basically what he thinks. So I think a lot of that is, if you embrace it, it'll come back. We're not talking about it because Jokic is like, I'm just doing me. Don't even talk about me. I don't care if you do or not. Versus Steph, which I do love. I can't believe I didn't say Steph. But to watch him, he had 52 in Memphis the other night. So when you see him in rare form, it's nothing better to watch on TV. But Jokic, Steph wants that. LeBron wants that. Jason wants, all these guys, Shea wants that. But Jokic doesn't. So maybe that hurts him in some case. Like, if you give me the MVP, okay, where do I put this thing? He put it on the shelf and go, I'm ready to go do something else.
Be my horses.
Ride a horse.
You know, I think that's his mentality. So people like, man, Jokic is a bad boy, but then that's it. They're not gonna praise it a lot because he's like, I don't care if you talk about me.
Yeah.
We're not used to that.
Yeah.
Because we want that. Yeah, give me that praise.
Yeah. He's like, I don't like parades. I love parades.
Come on, man.
It's funny you say that, because you really wasn't out there like that. You bring up Shaq, how Shaq was compared to you.
Yeah.
You was a quiet, oh no, I just, do my job and all that stuff. We remember, I remember Butch McRae, which are you a good actor?
I'm a great actor, not good. Yeah,
The basketball was excellent.
I'm just telling you, my acting was great.
When you was talking
That
Blue
was
Chips,
like, come on, man, that was about as good as you've ever seen
Penny.
in a sports movie.
I could tell you was reading. No, coach, I do not want to.
I do not want the money.
I'm a great actor, bro.
But I just talking about yoga. You seem like you turned down a lot of attention too.
But I wasn't like him. It was like if it came my way, I was like, yes, that's what I'm talking about. My hard work is paying off. He's like, I don't want anything to do with it.
Yeah.
When you grow up in our country, man, you know that. We want all of that. Bring it. We'll take it. Even if we're out there outspoken or not, it's like when we get it, it's like about time they show some love type deal, you know.
Yeah.
We were talking before about the new landscape of college basketball, you know, and I mentioned how old an Auburn is, you know, and you look at the other teams in the Final Four, you know, you have Houston and you have Duke. Like and all of these teams were the number one seeds, right? I think that hasn't happened in a good bit of years since I think Russell Westbrook was still at UCLA. When you see a team like a Duke, though, that gets there with the young players, and we're talking about stars who don't necessarily want the attention, do you feel like if you're going to compete with the young team, you need a Cooper Flag sort of guy?
It's only 1-on-1 with Coop, but him and Khan are two great freshmen, right? They bring it, and they compete at a high level that they can compete with these 24 and 25-year-old guys. That's what you got to have if a freshman is going to come in to compete. Even Pettiford at Auburn. These guys are high-level freshmen that are coming in and just knocking the door down. That makes it, to me, even, because even though these guys are older, they've been in college for a long time because they can't make it to the league. These are league lottery dudes. That evens out the playing field when you can get those type of guys.
You've, especially early, done really well in recruiting. If I have a high school basketball player who can hoop, if I have a long guard, and Penny Hardaway walks in my house, the first thing I'm doing is, hey, son, let's go put on YouTube. I want to go show you something.
Right.
I want to show you what this man is. Then I want you to listen to him.
Right.
Listen to the way he understands the game. Listen to the way he understands how you need to be off the court. That's where you need to go play.
Right.
But now you involve all this other stuff. It doesn't matter how great of a recruiter Penny is.
No.
Doesn't matter how great of a player he was.
Nope.
How do you combat that now in this era of college sports?
Man, you got to have some relationships with people out there that can get you connected, because other than that, it's about a bidding war. Like, they took that out of my hands. When I first came in, I was one of the best recruiters in the country because I could build relationships and I could talk about my history and what I could do for your son. Now, it's how much money do you have before we even start talking. I'm not going to visit you unless you start at this number, that type of situation. You just got to build relationships. The relationships that you've had over the years, that's why you don't burn bridges. They have connections to these kids that you want, and that's how you get them, because everybody's going to have the same type of money. If you have that relationship that you have built is going to get you over the hump, because you're going, hey, this guy can develop you, he can get you better, he can get you to your goal, because everybody can't do that part. Everybody can give you the money, but they can't get you better in the gym.
I think it's the second time in 10-something years where 4 1 seeds went to the Final Four.
It's Florida, Houston, Duke,
and Auburn.
Yep.
Is the Cinderella story dead? Because people asking me about it. I said, man, with this money, those, James Madison's from back in the day, bro, that's killed. They got $100 grand to give 15 guys. These people got 15 million to give 15
that's
guys.
over. You just can't, I don't know, they'd have to have a ton of luck. It's not going to happen like it did. March Madness, it's not about the madness anymore, because the NIL, if you have 10 to 15 million and I only have 100,000 to give my best player and then I have to trickle down, like I get $1 million. Some of these small schools, these Cinderella schools, don't have $1 million to give in NIL. Wow. It's not going to happen, because they're going to go get the best players, and the best players are going to beat those teams 10 out of 10.
Mm-hmm. But what about when you can pay money to get the best player? What's the young kid now? I think he's going to BYU.
AJ Bonanza.
Yeah, the Mansa, yeah.
But then you have to have a roster. You have to build a roster to go along with that.
Yep.
So when I'm looking at the tournament this year, I see some parity. I've seen a lot of upsets as well. Does the NIL benefit the game in that way?
I mean, it allows BYU to have a fight where they wouldn't have had a fight before. Mm-hmm. It allows them to, because there's one donor might say, I'll pay him, and the collective can play the rest of the guys. And then now you can put a team together and compete. That does even out the playing field for that type of team, but they're in the Big 12. That's not like a Cinderella story, but they have the money to be able to compete. So, yeah, if you got a donor that's willing to go forth, and you can have the collective earn this much, and then the donor will give this guy like AJ that money, then you can do it.
Like these two dudes, right? He had 27 knee surgeries before he got to college, and he was still an All-American. This dude here ran 4.28 when he came out of college, and he didn't even work out, right? How does the kid like me get recruited, though? The really good player, maybe not super talented, but is going to be a good college player, possibly a pro. How does he get recruited then, Penny, if I could go grab this guy in the transfer portal who was a 5-star, he may not be playing well there, but now he can come to my school. Or I could go get this guy who's a perfect piece for me right now, and I need to compete, and I can't wait for this kid to develop.
Right.
Has the middle ground of high school players been almost X'd out of big-time college basketball?
I think so to a certain extent because you have to have mindset, you have to have toughness, you can have a motor. Those guys are still relevant to come in and play right away because those guys can get on the floor. You're going to get on the floor defensively before you get on the floor offensively on this level. So you can recruit a young man that his mindset is toughness, motor, energy, because all of those are skills now. When we just did it naturally, we just competed. Now, everybody's not willing to go to that level energy-wise every single day. It's just so much entitlement. So if you can get those young guys to understand, to get their motors up, if you can't get your motor up, if you can't get your energy up, if you can't do it without a coach asking you to do it, it's going to be harder for you on those middle-level high school guys. You're going to have to go to a Division II or a JUCO for a couple years and learn how to do that, and then hopefully you'll still get picked up by a team later on.
Who's the best number one to ever wear a Magic jersey?
Me, because my little brother Matt came after me. And that's my little brother. That's my guy.
And we had him on the show, and he deferred the
That's
same
my guy,
respect.
man. I mean, honestly, he did more than enough in the number one. I mean, he's a Hall of Famer, right?
Yeah.
Man, one of the best to ever do it. But when you got the OG, you got to give respect to the OG. You got to give respect to the OG.
do.
And that's my guy.
Right,
That's my guy.
and we certainly admire your career,
And I
but
appreciate it.
if we can look forward, what do you hope your legacy to be, as a coach and as a mentor to these young kids in the Memphis area and beyond?
I just hope my legacy was that I came back and gave back my time so that I could give a young man an opportunity to dream, to understand how to handle himself in every facet from off the court and on the court, to have accountability, responsibility, to have a mentality that nothing's gonna be given to you. You're gonna have to earn everything, get out of the entitlement phase, and drive every single day. To me, there are no off days for thinking. You might have off day body-wise, but there's no off days for thinking.
Right.
And you gotta be on that mindset of destroying everything and competing and that edge, have that edge every single day. To me, that's what I want my legacy to be, that I came back and I touched these young men off the court to teach them the business of how it works and how to build relationships and how to get money. Mm-hmm. But then on the court, how to compete every possession and leave it on the line, because what's gonna separate you from the next guy is your will. Mm-hmm. And that's what I want them to know.
Penny, everything you did was strategic. Your game, facilitating, looking for other people and all that stuff. There has to be an end game to this. There has to be an end game to Anthony Hardaway. There got to be that. What is the end game? What are you trying to do?
Oh, man, obviously I want a championship, but I'll just let God decide that. I'll try to do everything on my own and say I might do a couple more years, but I'm on God's timing with this thing, because I feel like this is all orchestrated by him for me to be injured, to come back home, to give my time and money to this community. There's somewhere that he wants me to be, so I guess I'll let him figure that out and then just go from there. That, to me, is the end game.
I know some people are hollering at you. You don't got to give names, but I know some other teams are hollering at you. But you love Memphis.
I love Memphis.
That, we asked Prime that same thing. Like, Prime, yeah, Colorado, that's cool, but what are you going to do? Is there a situation that you're not in Memphis anymore?
I will never say never, but it's going to have to be something that's amazing. And then I'll be like, okay, it's time.
So with that, we always ask our guests their biggest pivot. So what's your biggest pivot? That's that one moment you can look back on and say, without this happening or not happening, I wouldn't be who I am today.
Yeah, I go back to when I was left with my grandmother. That was the biggest pivot for me, because she just locked me in on God first and hard work second. And if I don't get that early, that pivot was a long time ago, but that put me in the right direction, because I've never deviated from that. Like, everything was thought out. Everything was about being driven. Everything was about being the best. Everything was about God. You know what I mean? So to me, that pivot is the biggest pivot in my life because it's not me getting injured and coming back home. It started early when my mom and my dad left and with me with my grandmother. I think that was the biggest one.
Man, this is something I've been wanting to do a while. I'm gonna go delete my DM that I sent you because I figured you didn't run your Instagram page anyway.
Right, for sure.
But I definitely I was like, hey, Noop, I hit you with all the,
I didn't even see that.
I tried to use the bar. Hey,
First of all,
I tried to use
I got
the
too
bar.
much love and respect for y'all for not answer. So believe me, I didn't see that, brother.
Hey,
I
I was
promise.
like, hey, but you know, I always go delete it after we get them on the show so I don't feel stupid if they find it 2 years later.
But no, I didn't. But I appreciate y'all guys, man. Seriously.
Yeah,
I had nothing but love and respect for all y'all, man. I'm a huge NFL fan.
Yeah.
Watch y'all show. Watch the podcast, and man, y'all doing great things.
So you knew I was going when I said I was the penny of the NFL.
I did
See,
know.
dog,
Fred,
get out
I
of here,
know
bro.
Man, come on, man.
Get out of here, bro.
But we appreciate you, man. Truly one of the best to ever do it. But what you're doing here, I agree with you, man. Like that legacy of sowing back into your community, and I think Desmond too, understanding that you were carrying on a legacy that he was already building. I think that's amazing. And those would be the things that people talk about in Memphis about Anthony Hardaway, for the rest of the time.
Yeah, that's what you want, man. That's
Appreciate you, brother.
No, I appreciate you, brothers,
Yes,
too,
thank
man.
you,
Thank y'all, bro.
That was good, man.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate you, dog.
My man.
Bro, appreciate
Don't
you,
be
brother.
laughing at Fred. I know about Fred, bro.
But how you gonna stare another man in his eyes and say,
Penny.
I'm you?
Penny, soon as he said it, though, I knew it was going to happen.
Hold up, limitless, niggas to me, got pinning it. I fought the head to witness it. Got my people feeling militant. Way I'm feeling got me up. On the mission got me up. Knowing me, I got the key. On the vision I can trust. Limitless, niggas to me, got pinning it. I fought the head to witness it. Got my people feeling militant. Way I'm feeling got me up. On the